Oral questions by members.
Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. BC's forest sector is in crisis. Mill closures and job losses have been the hallmark of this NDP government for 8 years. Last year, I warned about the increase in the duties, and here we are now facing the 34% increase that we knew about a year ago. And the NDP, what have they done? Well, absolutely nothing in 8 years. You can't solve a problem with the same level of thinking that created it. Mr. Speaker, we put forward a serious proposal, hit U.S. coal shipments with a carbon tax until a softwood lumber agreement is reached, a real tool to help give BC leverage and to be able to support our forestry workers. So a simple question to the Premier. Will the Premier please tell the people of BC what his new Liberal puppet master, Mark Carney, has told him to say on this file?
Mr. Premier.
Thank you,
I mean, obviously, the President's attack on our forest sector, one that he has been committing to deliver since he was elected. He says he doesn't need our wood. Says that, we know that's not true. 1 in 10 sticks of lumber in the U.S. comes from BC. $7 billion last year alone. He says that he is going to do a national security investigation of our timber industry, which is obviously ludicrous and absurd. And we'll stand with the forest industry. I was up there in Prince George on Friday with COFI, the Council of Forest Industries, hearing firsthand from the forest sector about their recommendations about responding to this. Ministry staff are currently working on a proposal to defer stumpage revenue for forest sector to give them some relief. We expanded the vehicles that can be used to move pulp more economically. We are using resources internally to advocate for BC wood products internationally, diversify markets. We've got more to do. And I thank the member for his support for the sector. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Leader of the Official Opposition, supplemental.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I heard the Premier's speech up in Prince George, and unfortunately it was awfully short on any kind of details. But the reality is it's been 8 years, and the NDP have delivered nothing but federal talking points and nothing but doing damage to BC's critical forest industry. Look, mills are shutting down, workers are being laid off, and companies are shifting their operations to the U.S. And at the Council of Forest Industries, I heard many other stories around that. For example, the Vancouver-founded and Delta-based furniture manufacturer Prepack shuttering its operations after 45 years and moving to the USA. Other companies that I spoke with up at COFI talked about the fact that they've been operating for decades in British Columbia, and now all of their workers are south of the border. They're still leaving their company here, but they aren't having any hope whatsoever of being able to operate in British Columbia. It's been 8 years of NDP failure on the forestry file, and like I say, you can't solve a problem with the same level of thinking that created it. How can the forest workers of BC truly believe that this NDP government can do anything but deliver more decline and job losses?
Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Our industry is under direct attack right now by the President of the United States, by Donald Trump.
Member, he has just barely started. Take your time. Member, take it easy. Premier will continue.
This is a sector that has faced huge challenges. Pine beetle, changing. Sorry, Honourable Speaker, this is an industry that lost more than 10,000 jobs under the BC Liberals, so I won't take any advice from the member that's heckling. Pine beetle.
Member, are you interested in listening to answer or not?
This is a serious issue. Pine beetle, wildfire, right now very low timber prices, and a president committed to destroy the industry. Now's the time for all members of this place to stand together against President Trump and his attacks, not just on our softwood industry, but Ontario's. The bleachers, Honourable Speaker. Not just stand up for our softwood industry, but Ontario's auto industry, for the manufacturing industries of all of our provinces. We're under attack right now. What do we see from the Conservatives? See MLA for Shuswap tweet out a graphic advocating Western separatism, that our province should become a protectorate of the United States. These are the ideas that are coming from the Conservatives to respond to these attacks from the President. They can't even stand together to condemn the President's actions. I would invite a motion where we all stand together to condemn the President, because we did that and they didn't vote for it, Honourable Speaker.
Leader of the Official Opposition, second supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, very simply, the Premier wants to blame Donald Trump, but the reality is these additional doubling of the duties were planned last year before Trump was in office, and nothing from this government, absolutely nothing. He wants to blame Trump for the job losses. The reality is they lost close to 20,000 jobs under the NDP, even though they promised they wouldn't be closing mills. Mr. Speaker, how can this be seen as anything but a complete failure by this government? They talk about wanting value added, but the reality is you can't add value when there is no jobs and there is no thing. So when will this government actually take our forest sector seriously and become a champion for what is a cornerstone industry for this province?
Minister of Forests.
Well, thanks very much. Thanks very much, Mr. Speaker. First of all, on this side of the House, we are not going to take a lecture from a former Minister of Forests who was part of a government that saw 45,000 jobs lost in our forest sector. Mr. Speaker, I was in West Kelowna a couple of weeks ago and I met a guy named Bill. He's been working at the Gorman Brothers Mill for 48 years. I did get a picture with a member across the way because that guy matters to me. When we talk about tariffs, these are not decimal points. These are lives that are being impacted. Bill has been working his butt off for 48 years. 48 years he's been supporting his family. He's been supporting the people of West Kelowna, and Donald Trump is attacking his livelihood. That's why on this side of the House, we are going to step up, as we have been. We are not going to let Donald Trump attack our forest sector. We are not going to let...
Every time you mention Donald Trump, they get upset.
Members,
It's like every time we mention Donald Trump, these guys freak out as if they're defending him. What is going on? Mr. Speaker, let me be crystal clear.
Members.
Let me be crystal clear. We are not going to let Donald Trump attack our forest sector. We are not going to let Americans take paychecks away from our forestry workers. On this side of the House, we're going to stand up for our forest sector like we've done ever since we formed government.
Member for Kamloops North Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The NDP knew that these softwood lumber duties were scheduled to increase long before the tariffs were a threat, and that wasn't a surprise. It's inexcusable that they've done nothing to shield BC businesses with that impact. While this government talks about economic strategy, BC businesses are overwhelmed by increased costs, red tape, and trade barriers. Why did this Premier take a 4-month holiday instead of working on a plan to protect BC workers?
Minister of Forests.
Maybe the kids in the basement need a raise because that was a terrible question, Mr. Speaker. Holy smokes. Well, let's just be very crystal clear. We're going to stand up for the forest sector on this side of the House. It's why the Premier met with the Prime Minister today and made it very clear that the federal government has to step up. When we are talking about the auto sector in Ontario, the federal government brings dollars to the table. We need to ensure that those same dollars are being brought to British Columbia and supporting our forest sector. It's why on my first day, member across the way, I sent a letter to my federal counterparts asking them to use every tool in their toolbox to stand up for our forest sector, including developing a loan guarantee program. This is not something that was thought of just by our government. This was something we've been working with the industry on, with the BC Lumber Trade Council. It's something I reiterated to my federal counterpart last night in conversation with him, and something the Premier has raised as well. Trade diversification, I couldn't agree more. Why did the federal government cut funding for trade diversification 2 years ago to crown agencies like FII. On this side of the House, we are working hard to ensure that we are expanding markets. It's why we've got more boots on the ground, having conversations in other parts of the world. It's why we're working with industry to ensure that we can increase value-added opportunities and get more BC-made wood products to places like Japan, to Korea, to India and Europe. On this side of the House, we're going to continue doing this important work.
Member for Kamloops North Thompson supplemental.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Yes, we can walk the walk or talk the talk, but when the minister talks about being involved in the industry, I'm speaking from experience, not just from a book, okay? I don't necessarily need to go on a listening and learning tour, because I heard clear and decisive last week at Kofi what is necessary for this industry. Kofi released a competitive sustainability release last week that said our harvest levels have declined annually by 6.5% over the last 10 years. Our forest sector has also had the sharpest GDP drop in among all the regions studied. So we know the minister won't listen to us, but he will at least listen to Kofi and implement all of their strategic action plans that they outlined in their April 2025 report.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, when I became the Minister of Forests, I recognized that I didn't come from the forest sector. I didn't work in this industry for many decades like the member across the way. And so on the day that he was appointed the critic, I sent him a letter. I sent him a letter saying that I'd love to meet with him. I'd love to put partisanship aside. This sector faces big challenges, and I wanted to use the skills that he's gained in his time as a local mayor and his time working in the forest sector to be able to work together. We finally did have a meeting a few months later when he made time for me, and he didn't bring any solutions to the table. So you bet, Mr. Speaker, I will keep listening and learning, because I want to ensure that when we are making decisions,
Minister.
I want to make sure that when we are making decisions on this side of the House, they're founded on the issues that matter to people. People like Bill, people like Jack Gardner, who opened up a new mill in Salmon Arm, taking over the Teal Jones facility just a couple of weeks ago. Those are the people that I've met on the ground that are influencing not just me, but the entire Forest Service. So I will say once again, Mr. Speaker, if the member has any ideas, I welcome them. I'm sure we're going to get a chance to be able to dive through those in estimates, but if he's got time and if he's got ideas, I'd love to hear them.
Leader of the third party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government has weakened a policy that required new LNG export plants to meet net zero emissions by 2030. Last month, the Minister of Energy and Climate Solutions quietly wrote to the Environmental Assessment Office stating that LNG projects are not required to be net zero by 2030, but net zero ready by 2030. If LNG facilities can't connect to the electricity grid by 2030, they don't have to worry about the emissions required to liquefy methane for shipping by, you guessed it, burning methane in vast quantities. Massive provincial spending to expand BC's power supply should be for the benefit of all British Columbians, not the fracked methane LNG export industry. My question is for the Minister of Energy. It seems to be BC Hydro's responsibility to supply electricity to industrial export projects. Who will pay for these connections, and how will it impact taxpayers and electricity ratepayers?
Minister of Energy.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker. The letter is a clarification of current policy with respect to new LNG facilities. The LNG facilities must still achieve net zero emissions by 2030, but if grid electricity is not reasonably available by that date, proponents will not be penalized for factors beyond their control. That seems reasonable to me, Honourable Speaker. The policy on new LNG projects remains the same, because such a policy is good for the economy, good for the climate, and the right approach to economic development in BC.
Member supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, this policy change represents a concerning shift in the BC government's policies that prioritize LNG development at the expense of BC's climate commitments. For a project like Silissim's LNG, liquefying using fossil gas instead of electricity means another 1.8 million tons of CO2 emissions per year, equivalent to more than 500,000 cars on the road. Now the facility's net zero ready plan could simply ignore those emissions. There's no deadline required for when LNG would actually need to reach net zero. In addition to other breaks, emissions pricing gives a 2-year startup exemption for emissions when gas flaring is at its maximum. My question for the Minister, how much more relaxation of climate policies for the LNG export industry should British Columbians expect and prepare for?
Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. LNG facilities must provide a credible net zero plan and reduce all non-electricity emissions. That's straightforward. The policy was that before the letter. The policy is that now. The clarification only applies if a facility cannot reasonably get grid electricity by 2030, and then the policy does apply. But we are, as the member knows, across BC, engaging one of the most ambitious clean energy, renewable energy programs in the history of Canada, and we are going to continue to pursue those goals. That's good for our overall economy. The price of renewable electricity is going down, and we think investing now, contrary to what other jurisdictions may be doing, especially those south of the border, is the right thing for our economy and the right thing for BC.
Member for Kamloops Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, it's been quite the day of evasion of forestry questions by this government. We asked a very direct question about using a levy, a carbon tax levy on dirty American coal coming through our ports to try to leverage a softwood deal. The Premier completely ignored it. The Minister decided to use the NDP gem of every tool in the toolbox. I thought that would have been banished by NDP speaking notes after the Kinder Morgan debacle. But, Mr. Speaker, BC is the highest cost forestry jurisdiction, not just in Canada, but North America, and as best as we can tell, the world. And so when duties are going to spike to over 34%, the damage affects workers like Bill. And I would point out that those duties are set, and the schedule was set out by the Biden-Harris administration. That same Harris that our finance minister proudly campaigned for in September, Mr. Speaker. Companies in BC, forest companies, are shifting their operations to other parts of Canada, other parts of the United States, and instead of fighting to make the forest industry more competitive, this government is chasing away value-added companies as well. Has the Minister of Finance done any analysis at all on how uncompetitive BC's position is in the forest sector, and when can we expect to see that analysis?
Minister of Forests.
Mr. Speaker, thanks very much to the member opposite for the question. I think it is concerning. It's certainly concerning for us on this side of the House that we've yet to see the members opposite condemn the President's decisions to double countervailing duties. We have yet to see that.
Members, come to order. Member, that's enough. Okay, continue, then we'll have a seat. Anybody else?
Forestry workers just got another gut punch of uncertainty this weekend, and workers can't handle anymore. In my riding alone in the last 4 years, Mackenzie Pulp shut permanently in 2021. Canfor PG Pulp closed in 2023. Bear Lakes Polar Sawmill closed last year, and Northwood Pulp was cut to just one production line. Each of these represents hundreds of jobs. My community is hurting, and forestry families want answers. If this government says they're defending forestry workers, why does it keep getting worse?
Minister of Forests.
Thanks very much, Mr. Speaker. These are serious issues, and I appreciate the member opposite asking the question. I was in his community just a couple of weeks ago. I had an opportunity to be in Mackenzie. Being on the ground, Mr. Speaker, matters. matters to people. You can do Zoom calls here from Victoria, but if you ask Joan Atkinson, the mayor of Mackenzie, it matters to her that the Minister of Forests is in her community, because Mackenzie matters to me. I had an opportunity to meet with Pat Glazier, who owns East Fraser Fibre, and see the operations there. I went and toured Conifex, and I shared with them that because of the work that they've been doing at their forest landscape planning table, they had a request before me for block blending that it looks at finding ways to be able to reduce costs associated with getting fibre from the northern parts of Mackenzie down to those mills. I approved that. I worked with the people at that FLP table because that work matters to me and Mackenzie matters to me. I know it does to the members opposite sometimes when it's relevant, but I hope it works for the member across the way, and I'd gladly meet with him to talk about the steps that we're taking to support communities like Mackenzie.
Member supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, I know the member is new to his role, but 30 sawmills have closed under this government's watch. That's their record. The Kofi report released last week indicates BC is falling further behind globally. Wood supply security, investment attractiveness, and tax system competitiveness rank the lowest among all regions. With the highest log costs in North America, the ministry is projecting harvest levels dropping to 29 million cubic meters in this government's budget documents. Meanwhile, the minister's mandate is to reach 45 million cubic meters. Real jobs and real people are at stake with these numbers. This minister talks a good game, but will he resign if he can't meet his mandate?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if there's one thing we have learned is we cannot control the President of the United States, and this attack and the attack.
Members,
wow.
members,
Mr.
members.
Speaker.
They fought for workers as much as they fight for
Mr. Speaker, if the members across the way fought for workers the same way they fought for Trump, I would seriously respect that. Now, to the member.
Members, members.
Mr. Speaker, we've got a lot of work to do before us. It's why the Premier and I were at the Kofi Convention talking to people.
Members, are we interested in any answers at all? If you let him finish, it'll be greatly appreciated. Minister.
Thanks very much, Mr. Speaker. Forestry is a very important topic, and I'm glad the members opposite have taken time to be able to raise this issue. I've been waiting for some number of weeks. We laid out a number of initiatives at the Kofi Convention, a number of initiatives from the Premier and myself. We provided an update.
Members. Minister will conclude.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we launched a number of key initiatives. We provided an update on our BC timber sales review, ensuring that we're playing a larger role in wildfire. In 2023, we had the worst wildfire season on record in British Columbia. Wow. In 2023, we had the worst wildfire season on record here in British Columbia. In that 1 year alone, we lost 20 years worth of harvestable fibre in this province. That is significant. That is a significant impact. I want to reiterate to the members across the way and to all British Columbians, on this side of the House, we're going to stand up for the forest sector. We're going to ensure that we're restoring confidence in the sector, and we're going to ensure every single day that we're standing up for workers like Bill, because that's our job.
Member for Delta South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the George Massey Tunnel, or the bridge, I should say, I repeat, the George Massey Bridge would have opened 3 years ago. This government abandoned that plan, promising a smaller tunnel project to open in 2030. We've now learned that they refused federal dollars to build it. An insider has shared that the contractor is still in testing phase, facing significant design problems and struggling to determine a viable construction method. all without an environmental assessment, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, why would this cash-strapped government refuse federal funding to replace the tunnel?
Minister of Transportation.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Any more comments? No? Minister can start.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The province has not refused any funding from the federal government. In fact, the province is working with the federal government to ensure that British Columbia gets a significant financial contribution in what is a nation-building project, Honourable Speaker, a $4.1 billion tunnel, Honourable Speaker. There is significant work underway, and we're proud of the work that's being done by British Columbians in getting that ready and building that project. Honourable Speaker, I listened to the member across the way and the opposition wanting to cancel it and go back to a bridge. But you know, Honourable Speaker, we're at a time when we are under a threat from the United States. You know,
Members, order.
Honourable Speaker, once again, they demonstrate that they don't listen. Because if they listen to the ports, Honourable Speaker, the ports made it clear they wanted a tunnel, not a bridge, so that they can get ships up the river, Honourable Speaker. Ships to take our goods to overseas markets, Honourable Speaker. Overseas markets that we want to diversify, Honourable Speaker, because of the threats that we find from south of the border, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker. Oh, the member over there says what ships? If he talked to the ports, they'd tell you they want to be able to get ships up the river. A tunnel allows that to happen. Once again,
Mr. Member,
that opposition.
Stop it.
That opposition demonstrates while they're sitting over there, we're sitting over here fighting for British Columbia.
Member of Surrey South.
Mr. Speaker, British Columbians depend on transit, but Schwartz Bay ferry customers who use transit continue to stand exposed to the elements waiting for their buses for the simple lack of cover. Surrey Transit customers, and they are still customers, have to wait for daily for buses that are late or not coming at all. The Surrey Langley SkyTrain station is 1 year delayed and $2 billion over budget. Mr. Speaker, if this minister can't see that day-to-day services are reliably delivered, why should the people of Surrey and Langley believe the minister can complete this absolutely integral project for the fastest growing part of the province?
Minister of Transportation.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I thank the member for the question, for the opportunity to give him the same answer that I gave him the last time he asked a question, Honourable Speaker, that if he went to, for example, Fraser Highway on 156 in Surrey, he'd see those massive concrete pylons coming out of the ground, Honourable Speaker, on a $4.9 billion project building SkyTrain, Honourable Speaker. 16 kilometres of track, Honourable Speaker. 8 new stations, Honourable Speaker. Cutting the time going from Langley City all the way to Surrey Centre to 22 minutes. Travelling to Vancouver in an hour, Honourable Speaker. Stimulating huge amounts of residential development, Honourable Speaker. People having transit options, Honourable Speaker. A project that they didn't even want to do, Honourable Speaker. The largest investment south of the Fraser in 30 years.
Member for Surrey White Rock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, here's one thing we do know. If it ain't over budget, and if it ain't delayed, it ain't NDP. That's true. That is a fact. Now, another fact is the Pattullo Bridge, again, over budget, and delayed. And who's helping with that project? Acciona, the same company, Mr. Speaker, that was fired for the North Shore wastewater plant after it blew billions of taxpayer money. So my question to the minister is a simple one. How can this minister allow a company to oversee a project that has completely, in partnership with this government, wasted billions of dollars of taxpayer money?
Okay, now let him answer, okay? Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Well, I hear the question from the member, and it reminds me of what they did on this side of the House, Honourable Speaker. If they sell the land, it doesn't get built.
Members, we're almost done. Just a few more minutes, okay?
Thank you,
Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. You know, later this year, I am looking forward to the opening of a brand new Patullo Bridge, Honourable Speaker. A brand new Patullo Bridge that is going to improve traffic options for British Columbians. It's going to improve commerce, Honourable Speaker. It's going to be able to 4 lanes. It's going to have transit for it. But
it's not funny, members. Okay? Minister will conclude.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The only thing, Honourable Speaker, is that opposition. That is the saddest opposition I have seen in my entire time in this place, Honourable Speaker. We are, Honourable Speaker, going to be opening an incredible new Patullo Bridge that has trained British Columbia workers, that is going to improve transportation in the Lower Mainland, Honourable Speaker, and is part of the largest capital investment in transportation infrastructure in the history of this province, Honourable Speaker, and we're going to continue to build this province.
The bell and the question period.